something just doesn't feel right now for the Minnesota Wild after an offseason that was supposed to be the big spending offseason. The Minnesota Wild and Bill Guerin miss out on some of the big name free agents that were linked to Minnesota and can't even get the internal in-house signings done, like Marco Rossi, who is still reportedly on the trade block, and the Kirill Kaprizov extension, which supposedly we were going to shell out all the money in the world to get, still hasn't happened yet. And while those things there are not as much of a worry in the short term, it spells a bigger picture for the Minnesota Wild, and we have to dive into what moves we made and how it was a big disappointment compared to what we were supposed to do. And a great article from The Athletic highlights just how disappointing it was. We got to dive into all of this coming up on this episode of Wild Digest. And look, I know we've been reading the comments. We're not that thrilled. A lot of you guys aren't that thrilled. I still like some signings, maybe more than some of you guys do. You guys like some signings more than we do. But at the end of the day, we can't sit here and say that the Wild had an unbelievably good offseason. Now, you could spin it in a way that, look, I wouldn't have wanted to commit to Brock Boeser for that many years, but at the same time, the roster needs some help. Brock Nelson got sniped away by the Colorado Avalanche going back there, and that all leads to this article, which I'll link down below, saying the Minnesota Wild, out of all the teams in the NHL, they got a C+. And honestly, I think you could argue it's even lower than that, but we'll dive into it here. Look, we hoped to sign Nelson to free agency, but he re-signed in Colorado. We wanted to sign Boeser, but when it became clear he had other options, they pivoted to Tarasenko on a one-year bet that his career can be reinvigorated. A bet is a great way to put it. Now, I still like the deal for Tarasenko. It's low risk, especially since we didn't get any of the big free agents. I still think Tarasenko could end up being a decent move. Like, again, I don't think this replaces getting a big name guy, but compared to getting nothing to bolster our forwards, I don't mind it, considering it costs absolutely nothing. But whatever. Nico Sturm could help their penalty kill and faceoff needs. But this was not the July 1st Christmas fans expected after 4 years of buyout shackles limiting their every move. And I think that's bang on for Michael Russo. I think you could argue this is a C or a C- offseason. And again, something doesn't feel right? Like, again, Billy G, he was out here, he was saying, look, this is going to be Christmas. It wasn't just him. I know ownership was saying, hey, this is going to be the big time here. These contracts that were signed, I think, 12 years ago today or something, or 13 years ago today? I don't know. I think that was it, right? Anyway, regardless, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know, whenever it was. Early July, we remember the big contracts. Those buyouts are gone now. And we were poised to have such a big offseason with a Minnesota Wild team that looked to be on the precipice of doing something big, right? I mean, we have Boldy on an absolute bargain of a contract. Kaprizov, again, he needs his extension, but he's still on a bargain of a deal for his production. Again, assuming he doesn't get hurt next year. We go out and we bring back a guy like Marcus Johansson. I know this is just Puckpedia's depth chart. Ignore it because, like, you know, there's moves coming all over the board. Johansson's not going to be a second-line guy. Johansson's going to be further down in the lineup. And we know we got Danila Yurov that's certainly going to crack this lineup. This is just kind of a placeholder to show some of the talent we have. But, like, looking at this team, I have a hard time even saying that this is significantly better than last year. And I still don't know how good Tarasenko is going to be. I think on defense is where our biggest boost is going to come from, with a full season of Steve Boyum, with David Jiricek hopefully coming into the fold. But losing Freddie Gaudreau for a pick, like, I was of the opinion, look, I don't think Freddie's like an outstanding, amazing top six guy or anything. But his depth scoring for us, I mean, it wasn't even that much scoring, but his depth play for us at his contract and his defense was pretty good. Look, Nico Sturm now, similar level deal. It fills a need, but not a need that we thought we would need to fill, right? And again, having the Marco Rossi situation still hanging over our heads, I just feel like there's something going on in the front office that is just, it's not clicking right now for the Minnesota Wild. Because you have this too. I mean, this was a few days ago. I'm sure we all discussed this, but we signed a bunch of depth signings, which is important, right? Nick Abe-Kubel, Tyler Pitlick, Bradley Merrick, Matt Kierstad, and Ben Gleason. And it's like, we also got Cal Peterson as goalie insurance, which, to be fair, I think that's a fine contract. I think Cal Peterson makes a lot of sense, especially with Jesper Wallstedt's tumultuous year this past year. We're still hoping that he can go out and do something great, but having a veteran in Cal Peterson that has a lot of NHL experience to kind of insulate that goalie situation is not bad, assuming that Gus can take the, full on, like, full season number one, like, just go with it, Gus, right? I'm hoping that can happen. But when I look at what could have been for the Minnesota Wild, again, like I said, I don't mean to keep repeating myself, or maybe I do. I feel like something's wrong. Because I know the free agency market was one thing, right? And a lot of these guys, like we heard people say, I think it was Steve Yzerman out of Detroit, was like, yeah, look, I mean, all these guys signed back with their teams or they signed with other teams, kind of saying tampering, not tampering, I don't know. He didn't say that, but a lot of these guys were snapped up on the free agent market immediately. Sam Bennett back to Florida. He was linked to the Wild. Brock Besser kind of hung around and then signed a bit of a discount with the Vancouver Canucks. Okay, Brock Nelson quickly back to Colorado, making that Callum Ritchie trade look not as bad as it once did, also on a very high AAV. And so all of a sudden, a lot of these guys that were linked to the Wild were just gone. So then what are the options, right? The options are you can make trades to bolster your roster, but like, at the same time, you were hoping that free agency would have been this big moment to bring in a bunch of talent for the team. Now, I am going to spin it another way, though, in the sense that, like, it would have cost a good amount, right? You're never going to steal the guys away from Florida. Nick Ehlers was maybe an option, but probably not, right? He wouldn't have came here. Nelson and Besser were the two guys that were pretty clear, like, hey, we thought Besser was going to sign here for sure. And then it's like, clearly we didn't have enough to sway him away from Vancouver. And I just start to wonder what is actually coming next for the Minnesota Wild, because we still have to deal with, well, I mean, we got Nico Sturm, we still have to deal with the Kirill Kaprizov situation, because this extension, I've been patiently waiting every day. And I don't think, like, that this is just not going to happen, because a lot of extensions, they kind of drag on, especially Kirill Kaprizov, who is in a position to demand a ton of money. Now, where I kind of worry is, like, you look at some of these extensions now, the Rantanen extension in Dallas earlier this year, $12 million, Mitch Marner, $12 million, and you start to wonder, like, maybe the Minnesota Wild are going to want to go a little lower than we thought for Kaprizov. I don't think so. We heard rumors of $15.5 million coming in for Kirill Kaprizov, and, like, if that was genuinely what the Wild were willing to pay him, which is something that we have heard, right? Why isn't it done yet? Like, again, I don't mean to rush them. They're having their vacation. They're doing whatever. All signs point to Kaprizov, like, wanting to stick around. And, you know, we got Yurov coming in. It's looking good. Like, you know, I'm not worried about that. I still wish it was done sooner. But then the Rossi situation. Like, offer sheets are going to be coming fast and furious, I have to imagine, in the next little bit. Teams are more willing to do this now than ever, and we've heard Rossi's name at the center of this. How do you avoid offer sheets? Well, you either trade him or you extend him. We're now, as of the recording this, like, it's July 6th. It's 10 a.m. Eastern where I am right now. What is it? You know, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Central? I think. I don't know. I just get the time zones mixed up sometimes. Sorry, I'm in Eastern time. But sorry, no, it's 11:30 Eastern. What am I saying? It doesn't matter what time it is. All that matters is that it's July 6th. Who cares? What was I doing on that tangent? It doesn't matter. Marco Rossi is still not signed, and he's still not traded. And, like, I know now the signs from Russo, people are saying the signs are pointing towards Marco Rossi getting an extension with the team, more likely that than anything else. But there's a reason we didn't trade him, and it's because no team was willing to offer Billy G the price he wanted for Marco Rossi, because they knew they could just get him for a first and a third and an offer sheet. You offer him 7x7, he's gonna sign that. And Minnesota, yeah, we could match it, have him and Boldy on similar, basically the same contract there in terms of AAV. But, like, again, if that's the case, are they really just gonna wait? Then just wait and wait and wait until he's offer sheeted just to match? Are they gonna let him go for just to get a first and a third? I know, look, I'm just kind of reiterating a lot of what happened this year, but something just feels off to me. And I don't mean to say that there's something nefarious afoot right now, like, oh, they're doing something. No, like, I think it was somewhat of a smart play to not go overpay for too long a term on some of these free agent deals. Like, I don't think I would have been happy with that Nelson deal if he had signed in Minnesota. I don't love the term on the Besser deal if he were signed in Minnesota for that term, but at the same time, I can't help but feel disappointed, feeling like this was supposed to be the big Christmas. Yeah, we got some young guys. What even is going on here? What even is this? This video has just evolved into chaos. I don't even know what's happening. I need to hear your guys' thoughts. I'm disappointed. This is more just a rant video than anything, I guess, now that we get to the end of it. But it's not just me saying this, right? The Athletic is saying, Michael Russo, like, we missed out on the big names that we wanted. We just didn't get them. And now the future looks more questionable. Until the Kaprizov extension sign and until the Rossi situation is figured out, yeah, our defensive core looks amazing going forward, but our forwards, yeah, we got Yurov coming in, we got some decent prospects, but I don't know, I wouldn't say worried, just cautiously awaiting what's coming next. But I'd love to hear all your thoughts down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Wild Digest. If you somehow enjoyed this, rant, leave your thoughts down below, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for tuning in all off season long. We got the latest news coming your way. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.